Hey, so far so good, right? Man, I'll tell you, life is good. We were supposed to have a guest from Israel, but a lot's been going on in Israel. There have been fires outside of Jerusalem. I have an Israeli friend, and I said, "Who do you think started them?" He said, "Oh, I know," but so we don't know, but we kind of do know. The trouble with these things is they can all point to the end times, but they may not be the actual signs. We know that the world is going to get worse. There are going to be more earthquakes. There are going to be more signs. In fact, my good brother Joel and I have a disagreement about something. Oh, no. And, it's interesting that we can all look at the same scriptures and come to really different conclusions. And so we're hoping that our guest is going to make it. He might not. We're not sure. The communication has gone silent, but we are glad to be here with you guys. We're going to also take your questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. But Joel, let's start with the elephant in the room here, which is Revelation chapter 6. All right, so it talks about how the sky is going to recede like a scroll. Yeah. When that happens, it says every island and every mountain is going to move out of its place. And it says that the host of heaven are going to fall to the earth. Yep. And it says that all the kings and the commanders and the tough dudes of planet Earth are going to go into the rocks, and they're going to say the day of his Lord, or the day of the Lord has come, or the day of his wrath has come. All right, so the way I see it, I believe that is in fact the second coming. I would argue that the sky opening up like a scroll is the same language that we have for the veil opening that we see in Scripture. All right, so Isaiah,
is that the rakia veil? Which veil are you talking about?
The rakia is not a veil. The rakia, that is oh my gosh, dude, that's like
okay. The rakia is from Genesis 1, and God is dividing things. And the rakia is
okay. Hold on. All right, for all the flat earthers out there, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you went flat Earth. Okay, now we're in big trouble.
That's what flat earthers tell you, but the
rakia is part of it.
No, it's not. It's the expanse. The rakia is space itself.
The rakia is the division between God and us that protects us from being blown up by God's holiness.
I didn't know we disagreed on this one too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's let this be a teaching moment for all of our wonderful our audience. Okay, look. I love Joel. I disagree with him strongly on these 2 points, okay? But you know what? That's okay, because I don't have all the answers either. Scott does, right? Scott has all the answers.
No, I do
not. Scott defers to me on cosmic physics.
It's not my thing.
And for those of you watching right now, I apologize because Adam and I were talking about it. Everything seemed fine. He hasn't joined yet. We'll give it a few more minutes here. The main thing is, so I study with Ben Davidson. I've been following him for 15 years, since 2011. And so we talk about physics, and I study cosmic physics for an hour or two every morning. Doug does not. Doug studies the Bible. Okay? Yeah, Scott definitely not.
Any of that stuff. I mean, I was into young Earth creationism for a long time, and I studied a decent amount. Okay, I'm no astrophysicist, I'll tell you that. But
I am friends with astrophysicists.
Look, the point here is that we can all be fairly well studied. We can know the Bible. We can love God. We can, want we want what is true, but we can still come to different conclusions, and that's okay, right? That's okay to have different viewpoints. I really think as long as I've been studying the Word and I've been teaching, I think what God wants us to do is just be kind to each other. If we have different viewpoints, so be it. And that's okay. I'll tell you, when I was in Israel, I went to a Beit Midrash, as the house of study. And I went in there, and it was just this loud place. There's this cacophony.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Voices and opinions, and like everyone's like talking to each other, kind of yelling at each other. And I'm like, this is a Bible study?
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is so weird. But then I realized that everyone is passionate about their point. They're passionate about showing where it is in Scripture and talking about it. And at the end, they all, sort of did a kumbaya moment, and they all hugged. And they're like, we're still happy. We're still friends. And that was okay. And it's something that we could really learn to do in the West, right? Is that we can have our different opinions and it's okay. We can defend those. We can argue for our points. But at the end of the day, that isn't ultimately what God is concerned about. So, I'm happy to defend my points, and I'm happy to have a good conversation with you. I just want to kind of set those ground rules, is that we can have different opinions.
What as from a mediation standpoint, and again on this issue about rakia, I think you guys are actually understanding this the same, maybe saying it differently.
Doug, while you have a second,
based on what you said, Joel, because you said God is outside of the rakia, and that's the way I view it. In other words, that that the only thing outside of the expanse is Yah in his infinite spirit, eternal form. In other words, that none of us will ever be able to see, at least during this age, and probably no age. And that would be what's called what we call God, outside of the rakia, and then within the rakia is everything He created. Yeah, in our time domain, this space-time continuum.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it.
So we're kind of saying the same thing, but with different vocabulary. That
Doug,
I think
pull up Genesis 1, English and Hebrew.
All right. Joel is in defender mode. I love it. This is good. This is fun.
Well, because my buddy, give me 4 minutes. Yes, we're going to have Adam. Okay. All right.
Okay,
guys, I work so hard to book these appointments, and I mess up every week. And then if I don't mess up, then StreamYard messes up. Or like I had lightning strikes the other day. I don't know how I got through that.
That's a very good excuse. I have to admit, that's a very good excuse. Yeah. Okay, verse 6. And then God said, let there be a rakia in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God called the rakia, or made the rakia, divided it from waters which were under the firmament of the rakia, and the waters that were above the rakia, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So,
and I'm arguing that is protecting us from the purity of God. So, 2 words: tamei, tahor. We are tamei. We are ritually impure. We have corpse contamination or other things, seminal emissions, things like that. So, and we'll be discussing this kind of stuff about the red heifer with Adam in about 5 minutes, because he's coming on board, people. But anyway, the point is, there is tamei, that is ritually impure, and tahor, that is ritually pure. And God is so pure that we can't be with him, even Adam and Eve. So he built up the rakia to protect himself from harming us.
Well, okay, so that's where I would a little bit disagree with you, is that when God made the rakia, everything was still good. Okay, he didn't create that later. He created it first, when everything was hunky-dory, when everything was beautiful and good, and there was no sin, there was no death, there was no contamination. So that's what I argue that I don't agree with your ultimate point. The rakia is the expanse. It's the expanse of space. Right. And then the Bible talks about another thing, which is where I would say we probably agree, is this thing called the veil. And it's when it says that the heavens were opened. We see it in a lot of different places. You see it in Ezekiel chapter 1, when he's sitting by the river Chebar with the captives of Judah. It says that the heavens were opened. Now, it doesn't mean that space somehow moved away, or that that the moon moved over or something like that. It means that whatever this veil, this membrane, this cosmic curtain, if you want to call it. Now, keep in mind, we can't see this thing, but it certainly exists, and it blinds us and protects us, like Joel is saying. It blinds us and protects us from God's glory. Angels, it seems that they can move between these spaces at will. Certainly Jesus can, and God isn't limited by any stretch. It would seem, though, that the demons, or the fallen angels, however you call them, they are limited by that. And then in Revelation chapter 12, it says there was no more place found for Satan in heaven, and so he was cast out. I would suggest that he's kind of pushed through a membrane, as it were. All right, so Ezekiel by the river Chebar, he sees the heavens open. Jesus at his baptism, it says that the heavens were opened. Stephen, when he's being stoned, the heavens were opened. And then in Revelation 19, John says, and I saw the heavens open.
How many different heavens, though? How many heavens?
Well, I mean, the Bible talks about 3 different heavens, right?
Paul does describe 3 heavens.
The blue sky, the expanse, the rakia, as it were, and then that abode that we would call the.
Would you see the same thing with the tabernacle, or the temple for that matter, too? Different levels of holiness.
Sure. I mean, you've got the outer court, you have the holy place, and then you have the most holy place.
Sure.
So, yeah. I mean,
could there be multiple openings, just like the tabernacle? Maybe,
but I mean, you're suggesting that the heavens opening is the magnetosphere, and I totally disagree with that.
No. That is one of the link.
Well, I gave you the link. That's what you said in our text. Here, you said that, right? It's on the chat if people want to go see it.
Hold on, guys. Yeah. Let me get the link sent to them again. Oh no, it's taking me in. Oh, I'll forward it.
Oh, the joy.
Yes. But you know what? Technology is a good thing. We're going to be talking live with Adam in a few minutes here.
Yes, and all right. Well, let's take some questions.
Yeah, take questions. Leave Joel alone while he books in Adam.
This is good. This is really good.
Poor Joel.
Okay, well, here's a question. But this can maybe come later. What's happening with the heifers right now is proof God controls the timeline, not humans. Interesting. All right. Nice. Hey.
Shalom.
Oh, gosh.
Shalomi, my homie.
Gosh, I'm sorry. Wow. It was barbecue day, and I just kind of I sat down after one beer, and next thing I know, boom, I'm out. So I apologize deeply. It's time difference will catch up to you. It's after 11 o'clock here. So
I'm so sorry to keep you on this late, but we wanted you to be live. With the other shows, you were pre-recorded and blah, blah, and kind of, it wasn't as pretty. We want real Adam.
I'm never real pretty, but okay. I'm coming through okay. Tech is okay. The room is a little messy, but I apologize.
Works good. Works good. Welcome. We're so glad you're here, Adam.
Thank God. Thank God. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Happy. I guess you guys are still in Israel Independence Day. I guess
it's still May 1st here. Correct.
It's still May 1st. Thank God. Thank God. So what are we talking about, guys?
So, do you have a copy of your book?
One sec. That's not a simple question. I didn't until very recently.
I don't have my copy yet.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry. I thought he had it right there. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yay.
Okay. So what is the book all about?
Okay.
Oh, you can't hear it. What is the book all about?
The book is all about, as the title suggests, it's all about the red heifer. It's not a cookbook or a book about raising bovines. It's about it's actually I call when I explain it, it's red heifers past, present, and future. The red heifers, of course, are from the Bible. So there's a lot of material explaining what Maimonides calls the most enigmatic of all the Torah commandments. It is deceptively simple in the Bible, but incredibly difficult and complex to understand. So I explain the biblical aspect of it, bring all the Jewish sources. And it also describes the efforts over the last dozen years by the Temple Institute to revive the commandment of the red heifer, to find a red heifer, to do the ceremony, which hasn't been done since 60 CE, and also the efforts by an organization called Bona Israel and an amazing man named Byron Stinson to they searched for and found in Texas 5 red heifers and brought them to Israel. And so I describe what that entailed, what happened, and also as a result of that, Hamas and Hezbollah credited the arrival of the 5 red heifers from Texas for their attack on Israel. because they said, well, the Jews are getting ready to build the temple. So they attacked us. So I described all that.
Yeah, let's back up for just a second, because a lot of people may not know what's up with the red heifer. I mean, why are we talking about a red cow? Why is that significant to our lives? How is it significant to the end times? Maybe let's start there.
Okay. Well, the red heifer is a biblical commandment. It's basically, and the Torah says, is it chapter 19 in Devarim?
No.
Chapter 9 in
Numbers 19.
Numbers 19, Vikra, right?
I mean,
Huk.
And
Parsha Huk.
right, and it describes a Torah, para aduma timima, a perfectly red heifer. What that means is no more than 2 non-red hairs. It can never have carried a yoke, meaning it can never have carried anything. And it also, what are the other requirements? And it has no blemishes. So that means it can't have any wounds or scars. And those are some of the requirements, the major ones. And that red heifer, it's not a sacrifice. The red heifer is taken outside of the camp. In the case of the temple, it was taken to the Mount of Olives, where it was slaughtered and burned on top of a huge amount of wood, and the ashes were collected, and the tiniest speck of ash was put into pure water from a ma'ayan, from a spring source, and then you would take a bunch of hyssop and you would fling it. You would dip it in the water and fling it, and if the drop of water hit someone, they were purified from proximity to a dead body, which is the harshest form of impurity, of ritual impurity. So the red heifer is needed for us to completely revive the temple service. Basically, that's it. It is. That's why we need the red heifer to restart the temple service. You asked, how does it relate to the end of days? Well, Maimonides says that from the time of Moses until 60 CE, there were 9 red heifers, and the 10th one will be used to purify Israel to serve in the third temple and greet the Messiah. So that's how that relates to the end of days.
And there are differences of opinions. Within Orthodoxy, there is the Temple Institute, there is Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz, in terms of who's going to offer the red heifer sacrifice. Would it be the Mashiach, or would it be someone in the text?
Correct. There are different opinions as to who precisely will offer the red heifer, and yes, there are opinions that say the Mashiach himself will prepare it, and then there are the opinions that we will prepare it. I mean, just as there are differences of opinions as to whether or not we will build the temple and the Mashiach will arrive, or whether the Mashiach will begin the temple service and build the temple. So there are differences of opinions, but those are minor variations. I think overall.
What's your position?
My position is, well, we have Jews have a.
So do lawyers.
No, no, it's not even a legalistic issue. Well, I mean,
what your understanding is.
That is very much that is very much the process. The process is one says this is this and this is that, and what's important is the process and not necessarily the destination. But it's also important.
I'm gonna try to nail you down here. Are you leaning either direction?
Well, he might be a hostile witness.
No, I'm not even being aggressive. I'm just wanting. Do you lean either way? In other words, that the Messiah or just some random priest?
My personal inclination is in Judaism we're not allowed what we call cafeteria religion. We have a concept of Omed V'Nishba. as I stand here, for example, how do I? Okay, so since you're a lawyer, I'll give you the legalistic.
just give it.
Can I take an oath not to eat pork? Okay, yeah. Can I, as a Jew, can I take an oath and say I vow never to eat pork? No, I cannot. Why not? Because I've already taken that oath. I took that oath at Mount Sinai. Okay, so we're not really permitted to pick and choose. There's no cafeteria religion, so we can't pick and choose whether or not I choose to wait until the Messiah to bring the red heifer, or whether or not I choose to build the temple. I got a job to do. Okay, whether or not I can do it is a product of reality, but whether or not I engage in it is not a choice. Okay, I must do everything I can to move forward and do the biblical commandments, and that relates to every commandment. So insofar as it relates to the red heifer, we got to do our due diligence. Okay, we have to look for it. We have to try to do it, and if we do it, we have to do it. The red heifer, in particular, has to be absolutely perfect, so and that's what.
Based on that, I'm gleaning. I don't like to put words in your mouth, but based on that, if there is a qualified red heifer, it would be your position then that any priest would be able to sacrifice the red heifer.
Any priest, no, but we absolutely must move forward with it. We have no choice.
Who is qualified to do this in Israel?
A priest.
I know that, but is there a person?
We know who our priests are. We know. Every community knows. We have been absolutely scrupulous about maintaining the priestly tradition. I don't know if people are aware of that.
Cohen. I mean, they already have Cohen. That's already a good sign that they're probably in the ballpark.
It is interesting that I have Jewish friends that are, they're Jewish, but their name is Cohen, and they are Cohens.
Yeah. And there was once, I think, a minister of defense in America whose name was Cohen, and he was not even Jewish. Okay. The point is, a Cohen, we're very strict with them. They're not allowed to marry converts. They're not allowed to marry divorced women. They are not allowed to enter cemeteries. They have very visible and public honors, such as blessing the congregation 3 times a week. And they also, for example, like when we bless over the bread after the meal, they get the honor of calling out for people to bless. Their Kohen status, and also the Levites, is inscribed on their gravestones. So we're very scrupulous. We know who the Kohanim are. In this particular case, we need someone who's at a higher level of purity. So they were looking for a Kohen who has never been in proximity with a dead body, meaning a Kohen who was not born in a hospital, because there are dead people in hospitals, who has never left Israel, because planes also transport dead bodies. And there is a concept of impurity imparted by leaving Israel. And also, we needed someone who was a young man, because it's physically and mentally demanding to slaughter a full-grown cow. They also needed to train that person. It's a very scrupulous, very involved and detailed ceremony. So they need to train the person. So they have indeed found soon, I guess about a year ago, they found one, and then they managed to find other Kohanim, other young men that they've been training to prepare for it. So the Kohen is actually the easy part of the thing.
Okay, that answered my question, though.
I'm sorry?
That answered my question. That as far as your position is, a Kohen that's qualified could offer the red heifer.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be Mashiach.
No, it does no. And Mashiach is probably not going to be a Kohen, because we also have the tradition. The staff will not leave Judah, meaning
we differ obviously, but he is
B'nai David. he has to be the son of David, right?
Right, and David
Yeah.
was not a Cohen, so
No.
so he's the Mashiach will not be a Cohen. The Mashiach will be from the tribe of Judah, most probably, and that's not a Cohen.
Does Scripture actually say that a priest has to slaughter the red heifer? Because I was looking at actually.
Well, I've got the text, Adam. I'd like you to cover it this way. Someone shall slaughter it in his presence. Someone shall burn the cow before his eyes. So even in my text, this is the Chumash Lubavitch Milstein. It says someone. It doesn't exactly say who it is. It doesn't say Aaron will. It doesn't say Eleazar will. It says someone.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting.
I mean, it is not a sacrifice, but it was, and it's not done in the temple. Oh gosh, that's interesting. You said it was in
it's slaughtered before
Leviticus 19. You said,
yeah, I'm in 19. Verse 3 is the someone, and verse 5 is the someone. And it's an interesting translation.
Slaughtered before the priest.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I mean, I know that they're looking for a Kohen, that this was classically done by a Kohen. There are very few things that I know of that are not done by a Kohen. For example, on Yom Kippur, the goat that was taken out to the wilderness, I'm sorry, it was Leviticus 19.
16. Leviticus 16.
It says in verse 3, you shall give it to Eleazar, the priest.
Right.
He may take it outside.
Cohen. Yep.
And it shall be slaughtered before him. So
it doesn't say he does the slaughtering.
So he observes. You have to have witnesses, 2 or 3 witnesses. It looks like I would say Aaron and Eleazar are the witnesses, but the someones are doing the slaughter, and the someone is doing the burning of the cow before his eyes.
I would suspect that's probably it could be a Levite. I don't think it can just be
Levites never. Levites were
any old buddy that can just like go, hey, do you want to slaughter this thing? Sure. Like, I don't know. That seems like a stretch to me. I mean,
Tom, come on out. We got to do a red heifer. You know.
Bob, come here.
Someone pure. You would have to be tahor.
How would you be if you ran out? Like now, how is anybody pure?
That's actually, that's a good question. I have never actually heard that question before. Could it be someone who is not a Cohen? That seems to be. I've never heard the question. Everyone has always told me it's been a Cohen, assumed it's been a Cohen. I'll have to find the precise source for that. You really caught me by surprise.
Good, because you're brilliant, and I just love this stuff.
I am far from brilliant.
You did well with Mark Biltz, and Mark is brilliant.
Mark is Mark is brilliant. Okay.
That man teaches Torah.
And not only I just talking to Pastor Biltz, it's like I've got to kick it into high gear just to talk to him. He's going. He thinks 5 times faster than anyone I know. The only temple service that I know that is done not by a priest is actually the person who walks the goat on Yom Kippur out to Azazel is a Yisrael, not a Kohen. So, and that's another mostly non-sacrifice that is done outside of the temple. It's also a weirdness on that level. So, I'll have to find that for you.
So let's assume that we get the red heifer, or you guys get the red heifer. Why the temple? I mean, what is the motivation for the temple? You guys have been doing okay without it for a long time. The Jews have.
First of all, have we?
Oh well, you're alive, I'm Israel Chai, so that's that's a start.
We were also doing okay without the land of Israel. But except for the Inquisition, the Holocaust,
a few hiccups along the way.
So, like I said, we can't ask questions. You know, God told us to do these things. The Torah was given at Mount Sinai by God. It's supposed to be forever, so we got to do it. You know, what are we going to say? Okay, now you know that we have different kind of pigs today, so we can eat pork. We don't get the choice. We can.
I like that.
So that's and also no, we really haven't been doing okay. Also, when we came back from Babylonia, they started the temple service right away, even though they didn't build the temple right away. So
started the altar.
That's
the altar.
Exactly what we can only, ever since King David established or consecrated the Goren, the threshing floor, we are not allowed to bring a sacrifice anywhere else in the world. So it has to be precisely in the spot of the altar, and it has to be on an altar of uncut stones, but we don't need a temple.
Nope.
So
those sacrifices can start up without a temple.
Absolutely.
3 hours. In 3 hours, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Ooh,
very good.
I've been watching your interviews.
That kind of scares me. Scares me that people listen to me and take me seriously. But everything is ready. And even if we don't have the red heifer, we are required to bring the public time-bound sacrifices. It's better to call them offerings. We are required. Even if we don't have the red heifer.
The Tamid, are you saying?
Exactly,
so Tamid is continuous. 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right. Even if we're ritually impure, we're required. So as I'm sitting here right now, we are required to bring the Tamid. We're also we were required to bring the Passover offering, even in impurity. And because basically it's on the Israeli government, they said we couldn't. So that was that problem. But we're required, as I'm sitting here right now. So yeah.
But there's something different going on in Israel right now, where the spirit is overwhelming, where people are starting to talk about the Temple Mount. They're walking up to the Temple Mount. They're not just going to the Western Wall. They're going up, and they're praying.
That's absolutely true. There was. I mean, we unified Jerusalem in 1967, and Moshe Dayan decided that he didn't want to have a Jewish state. He wanted to have a secular. I don't know. Theodor Herzl wrote a second book after he wrote The Jew State. He wrote a book called Alt-Nuland, the New Old Land, where he envisioned kind of like a multicultural Paris on the Mediterranean, right? And that's kind of like what Moshe Dayan wanted. So that's why he threw away the holiest thing in the holiest place in Judaism, because he didn't want to have a Jewish state. And for many years, there were a lot of Israelis like that, who were happy to be Israelis, but they didn't think it had anything to do with Judaism. And since we did that, the United Nations picked up on it and said, yes, there's no connection between the Temple Mount and Judaism. That was the UN Heritage Site. They declared the Temple Mount, Hebron, Rachel's tomb, all these places. They said these are Muslim holy sites that are endangered by Israel. And because of us, we opened up that door. So there has been, if you look at the numbers of Jews who ascend to the Temple Mount, it really has gone up. And this is a ground swelling. It is a grassroots movement that flies in the face of the rabbis and the religious leaders. And it's happening. It's absolutely happening. And yes, you're right. If you look at the Temple Mount, you can see it happening. So,
what about Ben Gvir? He's exciting. I mean, he's running to America. He was at Chabad headquarters 770 the other day, just saying it's time, and they were singing. So there's something going on. What's going on?
Well, Ben Gvir, yeah, he's not my favorite politician, even though I voted for him. Ben Gvir, you have to understand, it's interesting that he got elected because he was a student or a follower of Rav Meir Kahana, whose nephew is actually slated to be the Kohen Gadol, Rav Baruch Kahana. And Rav Meir Kahana, gosh, was it the 60s or the 70s? He started a political party called Kach, which was considered ultra right wing. And there's this expression today, Kahana Tzadak, that he got a lot of things right. And his party was outlawed, even though we look back today and we're like, you know something? Yeah, keeping terrorists in the country is not a really good thing for Israel. Things like that. And that's where Ben Gvir is coming from. He basically would be in Kach if it wasn't against the law. He's not my favorite man, though. The last Tisha B'Av, the last 9th of Av, the last Jerusalem day, there were dozens of Israeli politicians who went up to the Temple Mount, which has never happened before. All of these things, which used to be considered fringe, whenever they used to write about anything like the Red Heifer or temple reenactments, which are really, it's amazing to watch. The media, the Israeli media, would always write about it as these fringe lunatics who are trying to incite the Arabs, and they don't do that anymore. Because it is becoming mainstream. It is becoming a movement. Israel is generally going back to its roots. We realize that if we don't build the temple, they're going to kill us whether or not we do. And they're going to kill us because we might build the temple.
And because of October 7th, there's no two-state solution on the table. It's off, right?
Depends who you ask. I mean, if
oh my,
Biden was only the two-state solution,
right.
And all of his State Department and his administration, there was no other option. I hate to say this, and it really pains me to say this, but we're almost finished having elections in the World Zionist Congress, World Zionist Organization. And there's a huge division where about half of them want the two-state solution. Jewish. The Anti-Defamation League, pro two-state solution. AIPAC, pro two-state solution. If you say that you oppose the two-state solution, people think that you're some kind of warmonger fanatic. And the fact is, the two-state solution is the Nuremberg laws. It's a Nazi solution, where they make Judenrein. They make places. I mean, there are very few places in the region that I can go to as a Jew, even to visit. And they want to make that. They want to expand that, and they want to expand where Jew-hating Islamists are established. They want to expand that. It's really explicitly racist. People say there's apartheid in Israel. Well, there is, but it's anti-Jewish. You have outside of the Palestinian Authority, you have huge red signs that say no Israelis past this point, when they're actually saying no Jews. Okay, because Israeli Arabs can go in there.
Wow.
So it's explicitly. I mean, I was in Gush Katif. I was in Gaza. I was in Gaza in 1993, 94. I guess it was about 93. I was in Gaza. Amazing beach, best surfing in Israel. But now, if for some reason everyone's like, free Palestine, what they mean is free Palestine of Jews, meaning no Jews will be allowed into a Palestinian state. The two-state solution is creating Judenrein, creating yet another place where Jews are not allowed to be, and yet another place from which Jews can be murdered. That's the two-state solution, which a lot of us are against it, but unfortunately a lot of people are for it.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So if we get the Red Heifer, then of course, the door is open for the temple. What do you think is going to change practically? Let's assume that everything goes pretty well, hunky-dory, and you get this happening. What would that change for your daily life, as far as you can tell?
Well, that's the reason why when I went to they recently had before Passover, they had a conference for the red heifer in Shiloh. And I went there and I saw the cows, I saw the muumuus, and I spoke to the people there, and they said that there are far more Christians who come to see it than Jews. And the reason is Orthodox Jews are incredibly reluctant. The same reason why the Jews were reluctant to enter the land of Israel after leaving Egypt. Things are they're in a groove. You know, they keep Shabbat, especially the religious Jews. They keep Shabbat, they keep kosher, they keep family purity, they keep a couple other things. But when it comes to and this would change our reality. We'd have to go to Jerusalem for the feasts. We'd have to bring offerings. We'd have to, I mean, everything involved in the temple we'd have to do. And that would essentially change Judaism. We'd have to be, right now we're only doing about 20% of the mitzvahs, and we'd have to do a lot more of them. So that's what would change for us. Also, you should realize that only Jews ascend to the temple, and only Jews would need to be purified by the ashes of the red heifer. But as I said before, we are required right now to bring the time-bound public sacrifices, which means that the non-Jews, the nations, would bring their offerings to Jerusalem, where a Jew would take it up to the temple to give it to the Kohen, who would offer it. Those sacrifices are personal, not time-bound offerings. So none of the offerings from the nations can be brought until we have the red heifer. So the red heifer would change my reality in that I would now be able to bring, for example, a sin offering, a Thanksgiving offering, all those things, which I'm not allowed to do until we have the red heifer. And and also the Gentiles would be able to bring their offerings. So
it would require a mikvah, right? So you'd have the ashes of the red heifer sprinkled on you, say Adam, and then you would be expected to go to a mikvah right there on the Temple Mount. And then what else would you need to do?
Yeah.
So there would have to be functioning mikvahs in or around the Temple Mount.
We have functioning mikvahs.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
On the Temple Mount?
Not on the Temple Mount. That's actually something I wish they would do. Nearby. Whenever Jews are required, okay, there's so much to say.
Okay.
There's a lot of question as to why the rabbis, the chief rabbis, and everyone said it is forbidden to ascend to the Temple Mount. What happened was in 1967, there was this huge, amazing ground swelling. People were like, "Wow, we have the Temple Mount. Let's go." And they started going up to Temple Mount. The problem is, since we hadn't been up there for 2,000 years, we were not used to being careful about how we went up. When a Jew ascends to the Temple Mount, he has to first go to a mikveh, and we're not allowed to wear leather shoes. And men do not normally go to the mikveh. The mikveh is usually for women having to do with family purity. But if I go up to the Temple Mount, I am required to go into the mikveh. So the rabbi said, you know something, people are not being careful. Let's just say it's forbidden. The problem was that now that there is a consciousness and an awareness, the rabbis have not rescinded that. But we have mikvahs, and Jews who go up to the Temple Mount do go into the mikveh.
And clothing-wise, would you need to go buy linen clothing? You can't have wool and linen together, but no, you wouldn't have to wear linen. But some of the Kohanim would need to wear linen.
No,
right?
the Torah specifies one set of clothing for the Kohanim and another set for several sets for the Kohen Gadol. And there's actually an interesting question about that, because the girdle, the belt, was made out of mixed linen and wool, which is forbidden by the Torah. But since it specifically says that the Kohen wears mixed linen and wool, it's permitted only for the Kohanim. So the question is, if we don't have the temple, but we're practicing, can they wear that forbidden mixture of wool and linen to practice? So that's a question.
And just so we're aware, there might be a practice at some point in time. It won't be done, a red heifer, but there would be a practice off the Temple Mount, someplace, wherever it is, where they would practice this offering. Right, Adam? At some point in time?
They've done it once. There was a dry run, a test run, by Professor Amar Zohar. They did, and he's brilliant. He also helped recreate the crimson wool, which is what's it called in Hebrew, the Tolat Shani. They did a test run, and they figured out that one red heifer could purify billions of people. So they're going to do another test run. But we already know one of the reasons they do these reenactments and the test runs is to figure out the details, because we haven't done it in a while, and to work out certain issues. Like, for example, the red heifer. Anytime there was a red heifer, they had the ashes of the previous red heifer. The only one that was not the case was the very first red heifer, which was done by Moses and Aaron. And after that, we always had the ashes of the red heifer. So they're doing reenactments to work out the details, because the details are important. So they're going to do another test run. They've done one. They've done one already.
Absolutely positive no red heifer has been sacrificed up until this date right now. And there are no plans right now, even going into the fall, there are no plans to sacrifice a red heifer. But it could still happen at some point in time. But you would need a political change in terms of Bibi. Why? Well, Bibi would have to say, okay, this is okay. You can do this, right?
Why?
Oh, you might start World War III if you sacrifice the red heifer.
Or we might start the first global peace we've ever seen.
There you go.
I mean, everyone said that when Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem and declared it to be the, Israel's capital, it's going to start a regional war, and peace broke out. It was actually a pushing for a two-state solution that caused a regional war and the war in Ukraine. Okay, I think this will lead to global peace, and that's one of the reasons why people don't want it. The place of the ritual of the red heifer is very specific, and it's on the Mount of Olives, and we already bought it. Okay, that was purchased by Tzachi Momo. Do we really need permission from the government to do a Jewish ritual somewhere in Jerusalem? To be perfectly honest, according to Israeli law mandates equality of religion, including on the Temple Mount. There was a case brought by Rabbi Yehuda Glick, and they said, look, you can't say Muslims yes, Jews no. So Israeli law mandates that the police must protect our right to pray and do any rituals we want on the Temple Mount. I mean, the Muslims can, but there is a proviso that the police can bring in security considerations, and for that reason, they've chosen to enforce things that are kind of unenforceable. They tried to, they go a little crazy. A year and a half ago, Rabbi Yehuda Glick went up. We blow the shofar every morning in the month leading up to Rosh Hashanah. He took up a cell phone and played an app that had a shofar, and they arrested him. And the judge just kind of looked at him like, what? So what they did was for the week after that, they went down below the Temple Mount, outside of the Temple Mount, next to the wall, and blew shofar every morning. And every morning the police arrested them. And every afternoon they take them to court, and the court would look at the police like, what's the problem? And they actually ended up finding the police. So here it's like, it's on the Mount of Olives. It's a Jewish ritual. What are we saying? That the Israeli government will not allow Jews to perform a Jewish ritual in Jerusalem? Is that what we're saying?
So
wow.
Christians ask us questions all the time about this. Has it occurred yet, the red heifer? Will it occur? When will it occur? Things like that. Basically, we're saying follow Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz at Israel 365 News, and he'll tell you. I mean, some of these things are secret, but you're saying the Parah Adamah, the red heifer, is not going to be a secret then. People will know.
I don't know. Stuff happens. I mean, I'm a reporter. I live in the Golan. You know who does know? I would recommend, first of all, follow me because I'm a nice guy, and I kind of know what I'm talking about. And if I don't know what I'm talking about, I know who does. Yes. Josh Wander lives on the Mount of Olives. I want to do an interview with him. Yeah, I love
what a place to live.
Well, if you step outside of his apartment, you might be killed. It's East Jerusalem, and they're vicious Arabs. You can't wander around. But that being said, he has a gorgeous apartment that from his balcony, you're looking down into the Temple Mount. So what he did was before Passover, he actually purchased a lamb, kept it on his balcony. He lived with, there's a Kohen in his building who was all ready, had the clothes, had the knife, and was all ready to do the Passover offering. And he also had a miniature altar that was kosher. It had to be an amma, cubit by cubit of square-ish rocks. And had they been able to, in the middle of Pesach, had they gotten the word, they would have grabbed the altar, grabbed everything, and run to the Temple Mount and done it and went home. But so there are. I'm a little off the beaten track. I am way up in the Golan. I may not be the first person to know, but if I hear any rumors, I know who to call. So I will check it out. Josh
knows.
Josh will probably be one of the first, if not the first person to know. That being said, just to give you an idea of I have this tendency to say people are lying when they're speaking out of ignorance. So what happened was the Jews, we read the part of the Torah. We have Torah portions every week that go in order, and before Passover, we read the part of the Torah having to do with the red heifer, and it's out of order. But we do it before Passover as a way of reviewing the laws of purity in order to get ready to bring the Passover offering. So also as a result, the Temple Institute has a red heifer conference every year at that time, the week before Passover, as they did this year. But last year, for some reason, CBS News did a documentary and said the Jews are inciting the Arabs by getting ready to do the red heifer. The Hamas and Hezbollah said the Jews are getting ready to do it, and they showed an image of the announcement for the red heifer conference. And they said, they're reading the portion of the Torah having to do with red heifer. In order to bring the red heifer, they have to do that. And no. And you're not allowed to do the red heifer on Passover anyway, because you don't do an unnecessary slaughtering and it's not really necessary for the holiday. So it was absolutely not, but people just misunderstood what was happening and and it happens every year. And they understood, the Jews are bringing that. And CBS News, they even, everything about their documentary was wrong. They said, they've even prepared an altar, and they showed a photo. First of all, you don't bring the red heifer on an altar.
No,
it's on a pyre of wood, and they showed a picture of a practice altar or a demonstration altar for educational purposes that stands in Mitzvah Yericho, not even in Jerusalem. Everything about it was wrong, and people don't understand that. One of the reasons I wrote the book was, this stuff is complicated. If you want to know, you can't say that the information is not there. But the problem is people don't really want to know. They would rather just, especially it gives them an opening to hate the Jews, which there you go.
So you said that this would change everything. Like this would really change your life. It would change Judaism as we know it.
Correct.
Like this would make, I don't know what my picture would, but everybody would be required to do Judaism differently. Do you think most Jews actually want this, or do they just like, let's?
Most Jews don't want to do Judaism at all.
No.
So, and like I said, we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
If you've accepted, when we say the Shema is not a prayer. We say it twice a day, And Shema, it's a couple paragraphs, but basically the first line, which is what most people know, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, it declares the unity of God. It declares, and it's what we call Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. It's accepting the yoke of heaven. Okay, Moses was described as a slave of God. Joshua was described as a servant of God. A slave of God is a higher level. When you don't have any choice, when you're so close to the master that even his smallest whim, you do without thinking. That is the ideal, and that's what we're striving for. And you kind of have to be that way. I mean, it's kind of weird. I watch movies now and I see people eating and I'm like, but say a blessing, or it's just, you get so used to like, okay, I serve God, in everything I do. And it's going to up our game a bit.
Wow. Well, we want to thank you for coming. I know it's getting late.
Can you stay a little bit longer?
Sure, not a problem.
Okay, you had a nap, right?
I have to run to get my daughter.
Oh, you have to run? Okay, all right. So Scott and I'll take over. So Adam,
and I've got to get back to lawyering. I've already.
So Adam, I'll stay on with you for a little while. I can't ask the questions from the people. I'm sorry. I kind of promised we would do that. But Adam, let's stay on for a little while. If these
not
guys
a problem.
And so bottom line is, geopolitically, it looks like things are changing in the world. Trump is flying on May 12th to Saudi Arabia. And what's going on in Syria? You have, I'm blanking on his name right now, Al-Golani, I think was his name for a period of time. Golani, from Golan Heights. Anyway, the point is that shouldn't be occurring. He won in 11 days, and Turkey's helping him. And then, oddly enough, within a couple of days, just a few days ago, he said, I want these Abraham Accords. I'm going to fly over to Saudi Arabia and meet with Trump and sign up. What's going on?
So the amazing thing is, if God wants it, it'll happen. Okay. I mean, Syria,
is it like Cyrus then? Are you going,
it's totally like Cyrus.
Okay.
Totally
all right. Thank
Cyrus.
You. So Isaiah 45:1. Okay.
And Syria, when I live I think it's 12, 15 kilometers from the Syrian border. In 1973, it was 1,000 Syrian tanks against 35 Israeli tanks, and we won.
Another miracle.
Once you start seeing them, you can't unsee them.
Right.
And Syria was the biggest existential threat to Israel. Syria and Egypt, but mostly Syria. And God said, enough of that, and made them go away. And they just went away. We didn't
in 11 days, Adam.
And we didn't even have to lift a finger. Not a single bullet was shot. Okay.
You dropped a couple of bombs in certain areas, but that was mostly because there were remnants left over of Assad's regime.
You know why I think Israel dropped bombs?
Why?
I think we did that because Russia got caught in there with their pants down. I think we were doing that in order to help out the Russian military, because the Russian military was so far stretched in Ukraine they couldn't afford. Yeah, they have two military bases, an air base and a naval base in Syria. Russia is very different than America. If they want to militarily engage, they don't send an aircraft carrier. They just go there and set up an airfield and a naval base. Okay. And they were there, and Israel had been cooperating with Russia. Any air attacks Israel carried out in the north, whether it was Lebanon or Syria, were done with the explicit knowledge, not cooperation, but the tacit approval of Russia. We had Netanyahu set up a red phone to a red line to the Russian military. And when Assad fell, there were still Russian troops there. So I think Israel took care of that.
So it's my impression that Putin loves his Orthodox Christians. And so he was trying to protect a few Orthodox Christians in that area, and maybe the Alawites too, for that matter. And so Putin was still around trying to protect. There's an affinity within all of Orthodox Christianity. And Putin, even though he isn't much of an Orthodox Christian, he is.
Well, the reason why Putin and Bibi get along is they're both opportunists. They both are out for themselves, which is why they both get along with Trump.
Opportunists, developers.
They are opportunists. They look out for themselves. So I don't know. I mean, Putin tries to. He makes nice noises. He wants to say he went into Ukraine to denazify it, and there's something to say about that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, you have the whole Glazov thing, and he also, there are religious issues, but I don't think that's really why he's involved in it. You also touched on
Go.
You also touched on Saudi Arabia,
right? Please.
There's something not so many people know about Saudi Arabia. Israel has an oil pipeline from Eilat to Haifa that has not been used since the Shah fell.
Okay.
Because all of the Iranian oil, until the Shah fell, until the Iranian Revolution, went through the Strait of Hormuz, came around, did not go through the Suez Canal. It came to Eilat, which is deep water. They would pipe it into Eilat, and from Eilat, it would go through a land pipeline up to Haifa, which is a deep water port. And from Haifa, it would go to Europe. Okay. I think it costs $250,000 for an oil tanker to go through the Suez Canal.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, it's significant. Also because the Suez Canal can't handle the larger oil tankers.
Sure.
So it was better for them to go to Eilat and then leave from Haifa. That was for Iran. If there is actively a project where they are building an oil pipeline from Dubai and Bahrain to Eilat, which means the oil from the Arab producing countries would not have to go through the Strait of Hormuz. There would be no threat from Iran.
Right.
They wouldn't have to go through the Suez Canal, which saves a ton of money. And they go through and they can use the biggest boats possible. So that was started before the Abraham Accords. Why did they do the Abraham Accords? Business. They were doing.
That makes sense then. It's an oil type of an agreement.
Oh, it's totally oil. It's a total oil agreement.
That's fine.
And Israel is going to be one of the big energy players because we also have all the natural gas. We're the largest natural gas find in the last several decades was off the coast of Israel. Lebanon has natural gas, but as long as Hezbollah is in power, they can't touch it. There's natural gas off the coast of Gaza.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Okay.
Thank God. I mean, the Mediterranean is full of natural gas, and thank God they couldn't touch it. I mean, they could have done a lot of things, but they chose to build tunnels.
I have to quote Golda Meir. She said, "How could the Israelites walk all over the Middle East and find the one place without any oil or gas, and now you have oil and gas?" And that's Baruch Hashem, right?
Right. And it's, I mean, something, and thank God it's natural gas, which is a lot better than oil.
You're right. So yeah, it is better.
It's a lot cleaner,
lighter, cleaner.
But the Arab oil producing countries have a vested interest in making peace with Israel. A lot of vested interest. We have common enemies, meaning radical Islam.
From different sides. I mean, we have a caliphate through Turkey. We have a caliphate through Iran. Sunni Shiite. They don't agree, and it's all tribal anyway. But the point is, Syria fell in 11 days, and Jordan controls the Temple Mount, but they're scared. If Syria can fall in 11 days, how quickly could Jordan fall? And it almost fell a week ago.
Jordan is 20%, 20-30% Saudi Hashemites.
Hashemites. I didn't know that.
Hashemim, yeah, and they rule over 70% Palestinians, and southern Jordan, they're actually kind of subdued and nice. There's not really, at least I don't know about now, but when I did border patrols in the Negev, there was no border fence.
Oh wow!
And we used to park our Jeep at the middle of the night for our coffee break, like 10 meters away from Jordanian patrols who are also doing that. The north of Israel is very different. That's where they're very nasty. But the Hashemites were, they're Saudi Arabian, and they were kicked. They were in charge of Mecca, and they got kicked out. And that's why they got the Temple Mount. It was their toehold in some form of religious. So they're the Hashemites. And there's interfamily things. There's a dispute between brothers. So they're barely holding on. They could have and they're very careful. If there's any murmurs of unrest, they just line people up and shoot them. That was Black September. They don't play around. Israel has to play around because, people don't mind when Jews get killed. So, but the Hashemites, they literally line Palestinians up and kill them. Because the Palestinians, that's what happened. The Palestinians ran to Jordan. I forget what year, but they started problems and trying to overthrow the government, and the government lined them up and killed them all, or killed tens of thousands. That was Black September, and the PLO.
And nobody reports that at all.
Well, I mean, it's in the history books.
If it's Jews, it's news. If it's not.
Right, and then they ran up to Lebanon, and what the Palestinians did in Lebanon is a nightmare. Beirut used to be the Paris of the Middle East.
I have Lebanese friends. It was so gorgeous.
Yep.
It was. They bragged about it. They're older now, but
they were right.
They lived there in the 40s and the 50s, and it was tremendous.
There was when I came to Israel. I don't think it's still there. I know it's not still there. There used to be the remains of a railway that went through the Jordan Valley. It went from Beirut to Cairo, and that was the vacation for the winter for Europeans. They'd go to Beirut, take the train back and forth from Beirut to Cairo, and it was like the best food, the best fashion, the best art.
Gambling. It was a blast.
Everything was happening. And then the Muslims took over, and now, I mean, they're Lebanese Christians who live in the Golan. You speak to them, and it's just like you want to cry. These people, they can't buy food. They don't have they don't have electricity. They're suffering because Hezbollah is actually a third of the parliament. Right. So they're suffering. They're totally suffering.
So basically, MBS is second in control with Saudi Arabia right now. His uncle is turning 90 in a couple of days, and he's very sickly. He's got he has multiple illnesses going on. Plus, he's old. Okay, so if he leaves the world, MBS would take over. MBS has openly stated that he's not a big Palestinian backer, that he thinks that they've got problems, and he wants to distance himself. He wants to be a business person. He wants to be, a leader of the free world.
Who was
MBS?
Who was a supporter of the Palestinians? The Abraham Accords. They always make a little bit of lip service. The Abraham Accords were signed. They said, maybe we'll talk about the Palestinians, but it never required Israel to give up land. It never required Israel to deal with the Palestinians. The same thing with the agreement with Egypt, the agreement with Jordan, especially Jordan. Why didn't Jordan or Egypt want? I mean, Egypt could have kept Gaza. Why didn't they? Because they didn't want the Gazans. Same thing with Jordan. Same thing with Jordan.
One more problem.
Yeah, these people don't. They know who the Palestinians are. They'd rather not waste the bullets. If they absorb the Palestinians, they're going to have to kill them all. And that's where they're coming from.
There's this Edom issue going on there.
And also, something.
Amalek.
I if you ever talk to a Saudi Arabian about Palestinians, it's like, I was raised in the 70s. They don't think they're human.
No,
it's really, I mean, I'm like saying, dude, chill out a little bit. You can't be saying that about them. They're people. I know they're not people. They're right. Really, they don't see them that way, but they have to make this lip service. I mean, they don't even, and the main thing is the Palestinians are not ethnically Arab. They're bred from anyone who passed through this part of the world. They're the ones who are not pure Arabs. Okay. So they're that's one of the reasons why the Saudi Arabians, who are very proudly Arab, look down on them and do not want them in their country, is because they're not pure Arabs. And even though the Palestinians came from Syria, came from, actually not so much from Saudi Arabia, came mostly from Syria and Egypt, and ended up mostly in Jordan. We saw no one wanted to bring in, when there was a problem in Syria, there were hundreds of thousands of refugees taken in other countries, and in Arab countries especially. And you mentioned Sunni and Shia.
Yeah. Different eschatologies.
Yeah,
Mahdi versus.
But Iran is not Arab.
Oh no!
Iran is not Arab, and it is Shia, and they are supporting Arab Shia. So
they want their caliphate too.
I mean, Turkey also not Arab, not Shia, and they want a caliphate, but it's not a Sunni Shia thing. It's not really alliances as we think of it. It's not like organic. We have similarities. They're very much, they're bound by their hatred of Israel. And Iran is using Hamas. What can you say?
So at some point in time, there will be a Gog-Magog war. And it looks like the Magog area seems to be in Turkey. It doesn't seem to be in Iran. But yet Persia comes together with the Gog forces from Magog, and that would be two different faiths, two different eschatologies, but they seem to be united in hatred against Israel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a tradition that in the end of days, Esav and Ishmael will join up against Israel, and in the end, they'll turn on each other. So we're kind of looking at that. That could be Russia lined up with, and also I mean, just on a strictly politics level, people don't understand Turkey. I think Americans have a tendency to
explain Turkey to us, please. Explain Erdogan and how he has designs on the Temple Mount, and he's constantly stirring up the passions. He doesn't. So explain that to me, please.
He wants a caliphate. Just as Putin wants to bring back, the Tsar and the glorious old Russia. Erdogan, he's actually a country boy, very lowbrow. He was raised in the country, not an intellectual. He wants to bring back the Ottoman Empire. Actually, even before the Ottoman Empire, he wants to bring back the old Turk.
You're talking about 1517 to 1917 Ottoman Empire?
Yes. That's what he wants to do. And Americans vastly underestimate Turkey. Turkey is I think, second or third largest military in NATO. First of all, it's stunning.
They're the fifth largest in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is stunning.
Yeah.
It's Turkey. And you think Turkey, kind of named after it. Turkey, people don't, and they're their army is very Soviet in doctrine and also in nature. It's old equipment, and they just believe in brute force.
Okay.
So they have like a lot of old tanks. It's kind of stunning that they're in NATO. There was a deal where America was going to sell them F-35s, and it was all set and it was going to go through, and then at the last minute, Turkey accepted a shipment of the S-300 anti-aircraft systems from Russia. And the S-300, the F-35s were specifically designed to beat the S-300 Russian anti-aircraft systems. And America looked at Turkey and said, dude, you can't play both sides of this game. And they do. And at the same time, they also play this like love-hate relationship with Russia. They shot down Russian warplanes, and they're kind of at the same time a big trading partner with Russia. Aren't they on Russia's border? They're
close enough.
Yeah, close enough. And they're also like they have a love-hate relationship with Iran. They're kind of against Iran when it comes to who's going to get the caliphate, but at the same time, if they have joint interests, they'll work with them. Russia also, when it comes to Turkey and Iran, it's very weird. It's not black and white. But Turkey's a huge factor, and no one can figure them out. Even Arabists.
They're biblical, though, people. When you see Gog, Magog, and the other regions listed, those are all Turkish regions.
Yeah. Sure.
And there is this hatred, too. But the weird thing is, okay, so Trump's been running around lately saying, Erdogan's my best buddy. I talk to him all the time. Whatever I want to do, he does. Not a problem. I think that's a lie. I think Erdogan does whatever he wants to do, and he doesn't listen to Trump, and he won't negotiate with Trump.
Something, I think the worst thing the left wing does is they think Trump is stupid. Trump is a lot of things. He's a loudmouth, a very crude individual. He is not stupid. And when it comes to getting the measure of the guy sitting across the table from him, no one beats Trump. So I think he knows precisely who Erdogan is. I mean, Trump literally walked across the border into North Korea. Okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
You look at that picture and you're like, I don't get it, because if you know that border, like
there's a Cyrus aspect to him. I mean, he just does stuff, and seems like God is protecting him. The bullet through the ear. Who survives that? You turn your head 45 degrees at the right moment, or you're dead.
Right. And Cyrus was a very interesting character. Cyrus he wasn't just good for the Jews and creating the third temple. He was a Zoroastrian, which and he believed really in freedom of all religions, which is why he helped the Jews. The Iranians look up to him like we look up to George Washington. He established their culture. So Cyrus, he's a Cyrus.
So you're saying that he's going to be able to negotiate with the Iranians based on him being like Cyrus? You think that's how it's going to happen?
No, I don't think he's going to have to negotiate with the Iranians.
Well, they're weak already.
I think one day we're going to wake up and we're going to be like, Iran? Why did we ever take them seriously? They're going to be gone, just like Syria fell. Iran is just going to go away. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 66.
So I'm 63. You were what, 21 years old when the Iranian Revolution hit?
I managed a foreign student house at my campus, at my college, and that was 1979. They were all Iranians in my house. I had 20 Iranians at my place every day watching the TV, and I was a security guard, so I had to protect them because I loved them. They are so similar to Jews. I tell you, Iranians are just like Jews.
Yes. And they were
smart businessmen.
They were more westernized than the Europeans. If you look, the universities were mostly women. Yeah. The women were leaders, and they were, and Iranian women are very attractive, and
beautiful.
and they were very big into the miniskirts and now to see them wearing hijabs. There was an Iranian artist. He's making murals, Iranian Christian. He's making murals all over Israel. And he calls it the Esther Revolution, the first revolution in human history led and inspired by women. It's the Esther Revolution. And
that works.
And I speak to a lot of Christian Iranians. There's a Christian revival going on in Iran that
we're hearing that.
You're hearing it, but it's like it's really under wraps because the Iranian regime doesn't want people to know. And they're meeting in their houses because it's It's illegal in Iran. Marzi, one Iranian Christian woman, she was put in jail for being a Christian. She was almost executed. Okay, this is what's happening in Iran, and they all their money goes to Palestinians. The people hate Palestinians with a passion.
Right?
They're starving, and their government is giving all their money to radical Muslims who are against Israel. And the people are like, "What about lunch? We want food." And they hate Palestine. I saw this one. There was a demonstration in Tehran. There's a Palestine road in Tehran. So at this demonstration, they ripped down the sign and they were stomping on it. Why? Because they hate Palestinians.
There you go.
Because Palestinians are Shia Muslim Arabs,
and they're Arab,
and Dr. Mordechai Kedar thinks that Iran is going to go the way of the Soviet Union because there's very little holding it together.
But there's the Gog aspect that Persia is going to be involved with Gog at some point in time,
or it'll build the third temple.
Okay.
It could do that. It built the second temple. Why not the third temple?
Okay.
Who else built the temple?
Who
built the first temple?
Solomon, Shlomo,
with the help of Hiram.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course, from Lebanon. Sure. Yeah.
So why do you think that Lebanon and the Lebanese Christians will not take a big role in building the third temple?
That'd be wonderful.
It would be amazing. It would be great for them.
I love Lebanon. My Lebanese friends, they were wonderful, and they were kicked out.
Gorgeous country, and it's the first Christians are there, the Maronite Christians.
Right.
They're the first Christians. I think, it's the Lebanese Christians, the Iranian Christians are going to help us build the third temple, and Trump will be Cyrus. Okay,
it seems like it.
It does seem like it, and yes. Okay, we have a tradition in Judaism, in the Talmud. It says, when it comes to prophecy, negative prophecies, positive prophecies will absolutely come to be. Negative prophecies, we'll talk about it.
We'll pray.
Hashem will come along. We'll say, God, we got something to say about this. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have heard from some interesting sources, very hidden Kabbalistic sources, rabbis who say that Gog and Magog will be fought outside of Israel.
Wow.
Because we merit it, because of our faithfulness in the exile, because of our return to Torah, because our keeping the mitzvahs against all odds. Hashem is going to be like, okay, I said Gog and Magog is going to happen, but it's not going to be horrible for you guys. So God willing, that will be the case. So yeah, Gog and Magog, but we'll talk. It doesn't necessarily have to look like this horrible vision. It might happen outside of Israel to the north. It might involve Turkey and Russia killing each other or something like that. Syria went away, so why not Iran? Why can't Iran? Iran could fall, like it could be falling as we speak.
They're weak. They're so weak.
And it's like the people hate the regime.
They do. They're starving.
And the government is holding
on.
The
sanctions from Trump and other nations are killing them.
Not even. Who wants to live under an Islamist regime? The people, if they could have an uprising without being shot en masse in the streets, the government would be out yesterday. But that's the situation. And the horrible thing is, who was the biggest supporter of the Iranian regime? The Islamist, horrible regime that murders people and has death prisons and everything. Who supported them and propped them up? Obama and Biden.
Oh, of course. Yeah. The instigator in charge. Yes.
Yeah. If you talk to the Iranian people, they know that. There's no,
well, there's enough blame to go around because the Bushes and the Cheneys launched all these wars over in the Middle East. They stirred the hornet's nest.
Granted. And the EU is certainly, in up to their necks also. But Biden and Obama revived. Iran was about to be off the stage entirely, and Obama brought them back.
Yep. $1.7 billion. Here you go. No strings, no accountability.
And the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the nuclear deal with Iran, never said no nuclear weapons. It said nuclear weapons in 10 years, which is already up, meaning that according to if Biden had been reelected, they would be building a nuclear weapon right now. So we really dodged a huge bullet on that one.
Can we move east a little bit? Can we go to Pakistan and India? Are you saying that it's going to be World War III there? Or I don't think they'll fight.
I think they will.
Oh, really? Why?
A couple reasons. First of all, you know how you say India in Hebrew?
No.
Hodu.
Ivri? What?
Hodu.
Hodu.
Hodu. Which
Hodu
is
Kitov.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Interesting.
Hodu Lashem Kitov.
Yeah. Sure.
And what's the biggest religion in India? Brahmins, the Ibrahims.
Oh. Okay.
There's a tradition that some of Abraham's kids might have wandered. The problem is there's incredible levels of idolatry and paganism in India. I think they'll fight because that is very clearly, first of all, that there was a horrible terrorist attack.
Oh, it was, yeah. Our VP was there when the attack occurred. So Vance was there. It's interesting that they timed it that way.
Right. And there is a long history of blood being spilled.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think and the India has a long tradition of a warrior caste. They're both nuclear, but I think
they are. Say it one more time. They're both
nuclear.
Right.
But I think India, when it comes to everything leading up to a nuclear war, they are, when it comes to conventional warfare, they can clean Pakistan's clock without much effort.
I think you're right, yeah.
And they've taken way too much off of Pakistan up until now. So I think it's just going to, I think India's going to go for it. I mean, they kicked out, they kicked out people. They kicked out Pakistanis from India. Pakistan kicked out Indians. They're gearing up to.
China's right there with both of them. China hates India. India.
Yeah. They do.
Especially in the northern areas,
Right. They have border disputes up there.
Tibet.
China, I don't have a real good handle on China. On one hand, they have, militarily, they can't be discounted. When it comes to Israel can get along with China.
Wow.
There was a time during the Biden. See, unfortunately, Israel is America's greatest ally. But if America turns its back on Israel, we'll get by. We were doing business with China. To be honest, there was a time when it was looking, if Biden had gotten into office, Bibi Netanyahu would be taking Russian lessons. He had, at one point, he had a Russian defense minister. We were cooperating with them in Syria up north. Israel could be very easily become an ally of Russia. Russia would like us because they're sick of losing wars by supporting the Arabs. I could see Israel becoming an ally of Russia, though. To be honest, politics and military aside, Israel wants to be an ally of America. I hope Americans get that message and understand that. And I think it goes deeper than culture. I think it does go down to religion, that we feel closer to America spiritually than we do feel to any other country.
Who's going up to the Temple Mount right now to pray? It's Christians from America.
I want to see a lot of Christians going up, because all the laws, all the rules that they have against Jews is also against Christians.
So people that are watching right now and future people that will be watching later on, go to Israel. Go up to the Temple Mount. pray. You won't be arrested now.
Openly.
Now, Adam, you're not a big fan of Ithamar Ben-Gvir, but yet he has set up a program where you won't be arrested now.
It was happening, and the only reason it is happening is not because of Itamar Ben-Gvir. He does not get cooperation from the security establishment.
Oh, I thought he ran the police department.
Yes, he does.
Okay, he does.
They don't cooperate with him.
Oh,
he's herding cats. It's really difficult. There's just there's what do you call it, the shadow government, the
deep state,
the deep state. We have it in Israel. So the reason why it's happening is because we're going up there. Okay, when you have 10 Jews going up a day, and the Waqif had guards standing alongside the Israeli police, standing over them, it was horrible. It was horrible. Now we go up in numbers. I was told, when was it? It was blah, 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 blah. What was the holiday we just had? There was Passover. Someone went up, and they were supposed to be in groups of 10. Each group of 10 had like 2 cops, and they just couldn't do it. So they put together a group of 100. And when you've got 100 Jews who go up and say, "We're going to pray," they're going to pray. Okay.
They did. Yeah.
And I haven't been up since we're openly prostrating ourselves, lying down on the stones.
Right. I've seen that.
Which is a huge mitzvah. The only place we can do that is on the Temple Mount. I haven't been up since then. I'm so want to go and do that.
So you're stoked about this. I mean, you and other Orthodox Jews are excited, and I'm very close friends.
Me and some Orthodox Jews. If you go up, most of the Jews going up are wearing black. But
my Lubavitch friends have no interest in this.
Right.
The Rebbe said, don't go there. Don't go to Israel. Don't go up on the Temple Mount.
That's not exactly what he said, but okay.
And I love, I have a meeting tonight with my favorite rabbi in town here in St. Paul, Minnesota, Moshe Feller, Rabbi Feller. And he was sent out by the Rebbe. I mean, he's that old. He's in his 80s, really wonderful. But, whenever I bring up things that you're talking about, he says, oh, no, Joel.
Well, there's also a huge difference between Chabad in America and Chabad in Israel.
Okay.
But this is what we call in Hasidut Hitaruta Delatata, awakening up from below. It's a grassroots movement, and it's growing exponentially. Before October 7th, the majority of Israelis were against Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount. Now the majority of Israelis are for.
Right.
The biggest obstacle is Netanyahu, who has vowed that there will never be Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount. And now that there is, he's also vowed never to return the territories. And he's also said he will return the territories, but he's territories. I apologize. Judea and Samaria. Netanyahu is not, it's so funny. He is not right wing. He is very much not right wing.
He's a politician.
He's at best, he's a centrist. He voted for expelling Jews from Gush Katif. He supported that. He is not a right wing. Itamar Ben-Gvir is right wing, but
he's right wing.
Right. Netanyahu made a coalition. Netanyahu is the master of making coalitions with people he doesn't like, and that's how Ben-Gvir got into the government. Netanyahu never made a coalition with the Arabs, which is what what's his name did. The bald guy, who became prime minister. You know who I'm talking about.
But I can't remember his name now.
Right, I can't remember his name either.
Okay, all right.
His downfall was he made a coalition with Yair Lapid, who is a horrible person. And he's a horrible person, the son of a horrible person. And he also made a coalition with Arabs. And it had never been done before, and it will probably never be done again.
Not after October 7th.
Though one of the very few nice things that came out of October 7th was the previous engagement in Gaza. there was a lot of unrest in the mixed cities, and the Arabs were attacking Jews in the mixed cities. This time around, there is a lot of fighting in Samaria, in Shomron, against the Palestinian Authority. But Israeli Arabs decided that they want to be Israeli.
Good.
And they've rejected October 7th. Amazing.
There's a new spirit.
There is a new spirit. They have rejected October 7th. They are proudly Israeli for the most part. The exception is East Jerusalem and Samaria. Yeah.
Still dangerous.
Yeah. So which is going to be, the next elections are going to be very interesting in Israel.
So we're going to hold you to these prognostications. How many nations are going to join with Trump and MBS? Is Saudi Arabia going to sign the Abraham Accords on May 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th? And it looks like Syria is going to sign. So how many nations are coming into the Abraham Accords? Tell us the amount.
I don't know how many.
Okay.
What people don't remember is after they were signed at first, it was Bahrain and the UAE, and all of a sudden, like 3 other countries jumped in. Yeah. I think the only reason why Saudi Arabia didn't jump in is they saw Biden in the wings, and they hated Biden. Oh my gosh, did they hate Biden? And they're smart. They are the leaders of the Arab world, and they do this by being smart. They've never come up against Israel. They've never supported a fight against Israel.
Okay.
So
Trump smart. Is buddy with Saudi Arabia, especially with MBS. He walked up to him and tapped him on the shoulder. Nobody taps a king, or he'll soon to be the king, on the shoulder. And and Jared Kushner is buddy with MBS too.
That was the brilliant thing. How did Donald Trump make the Abraham Accords? He sent a group of religious Jews to the Arab countries.
Jared is an Orthodox Jew.
Everything for Trump is a Gordian knot. He just cuts his way right to the center. Okay. You Arabs, you got a problem with Israel? Well, okay, why don't you talk it over with these guys, the religious Jews, and work it out? And they did.
They did.
Biden was like, "Oh, I see it your way. Oh, let's 2-state solution." And the Arabs were like, "Who are you? You're the guy who you're trying to play all sides of the." So they saw right through him. Trump, and that thing where he stood up in front, he was standing there with Netanyahu, and he said, "Okay, maybe we'll turn Gaza into real estate." And
Gaza.
He totally caught Netanyahu by surprise. You could see.
Right, he did, yeah.
And everyone who's in the know who heard that said, "Gosh, he's the only one who's talking about the solution. Everyone knows it'll work." And what they did was they immediately began lying, saying, "Oh, he wants to kick the Arabs out of Gaza." No, he didn't. He said, "Let them leave." The Gazans are the only people in the world who do not have the basic human right of being allowed to flee a war zone. They're the only ones. Everyone else in the world, if there's a war in your backyard, run away. Not only run away, you're a refugee. We'll take you in. Gazans, no. Okay. And Trump said, if they want to leave, let them. There was a stunning survey done by a Palestinian think tank a week or two after Trump said that. And they said, well, we have that 40% of the people in Gaza want to leave. And I'm thinking to myself, no, they had 40% of the people in Gaza willing to admit that they wanted to leave. Yeah. Because there were probably another 40% who wanted to say that they wanted to leave, but were too afraid to. So that's that. Trump came up with the Gordian knot solution to Gaza. Let them leave.
So Trump is really good at negotiating. He's going on May 12th, a couple of days from now, to Saudi Arabia. He doesn't go there unless he's got a deal set up. He's not flying in for the fun of it. Okay. No, he's negotiating 2,000 deals at the same time. And he loves deals. I mean, he eats them up like Yeah,
and he is good at them. He is good at them. He's like he did. I'm surprised he hasn't made more inroads with Ukraine, but the Abraham Accords was so
Zelensky's
good.
a wild card.
He's in yes, and Ukraine is just you can't trust anything about Ukraine. It's the most corrupt place in the world.
Yeah, it is.
But when Trump arranged the Abraham Accords, he was just very straight, and straight shooters get ahead. Yep. And that's what happened there, and that's what's going to happen again. When it was so good, so clear that in the Biden administration, in the Biden State Department, it was forbidden to use the term Abraham Accords because it was seen as a huge victory for Trump. And there's so many people, so many thinkers like Jordan Peterson and other people are like, I just don't get why Trump did not get the Nobel Peace Prize for that.
Because he's Trump. Everybody hates him.
Because he's Trump.
Yeah.
But he's gonna bring home. I mean, yeah, like you said, if he's going to
he's got the deal cut. He's just walking. He wants to make a big deal about this. He wants to sign it with cameras and everybody loving him. He wants the big show.
Exactly. The expanded Abraham Accords is gonna happen.
But you won't tell us how many nations, but it's going to be a bunch.
I don't know. There are a lot who, I mean, if it's Saudi Arabia is the spiritual leader of the Sunni Arab world. So
I think they're going to sign first. It's going to be Trump and Saudi Arabia first.
I think they're going to sign first out of matters of honor. And
okay.
You know, they want to be the ones who said, "Hey, you know, everyone's following us," and I think a lot of nations after them, and it will have. I think it's interesting because one of the reasons I don't know is because the Arab world is kind of in flux. Another reason why Saudi Arabia might do it is because, you know, everyone's like, "Oh, the Houthis are firing drones at Israel." The Houthis have been firing drones at Saudi Arabia for a very long time and doing serious damage.
It's never been published.
I published it.
I read your stuff all the time.
They hit their oil refinery and did some.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a while back. And I think Saudi Arabia is going to start signing names to say, okay, you're on our side, and now we're going to take care of the Houthis in Yemen.
And the Houthis are Iranian proxies.
Exactly. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Whose slogan is "Death to America, Death to Israel."
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Saudi Arabia is saying, who can we align with to protect us?
Yeah.
Israel, United States. Sure.
Right.
Let's do this.
Right. And anyone who wants to, and I mean, even Hamasniks go on Hajj to Mecca.
Yeah.
So the religious element is not to be discounted. I think there's going to be a lot of nations. It's going to be a semi-political thing.
It'll be really huge. Right?
It will be huge. It will be huge. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I was surprised the Abraham Accords. I thought it was just, you know, UAE and Bahrain, and all of a sudden you had Morocco jumped in, and who else jumped in? It was
I think it's only 4 right now. With Israel, it's 5. But that's still pretty good.
That was a lot more than expected. And if Trump had won, in the previous election, it would have just rolled on, and that's what we're going to see now.
I would say it's like a slingshot. You have to kind of pull it back, and by losing in 2020, the slingshot's going to go faster this time. Trump is locked and loaded on deals.
Yeah. I think so. He's pretty cool like that.
So basically, you're not going to Saudi Arabia, right? But you'll follow it. You'll write about it.
It's funny you mention that. I have a very dear friend whose brother converted to Islam and lives in Saudi Arabia. And he said,
Go there.
I would go. The problem is, I just wrote one book. I'm in the process of writing another one right now.
This could be huge.
This will be huge. There's no question it will be huge. And I don't think Americans feel like, you know, all this isolationism, they don't realize how much it's going to impact them. At least at the gas pumps, you know? So
Oh, it's going to be huge for that. Yeah.
It's going to be
Trump,
huge for that.
Trump wants to drill any place in America, but also he wants the Middle East to be free, and he wants peace deals, and trade is the best way to do that. So
well, peace is good for business.
It is.
And Trump is a businessman. So I think it's going to. Biden was not a businessman.
No.
Biden was supposed to be a politician, and he was horrible at it. So yeah, I think we're gonna see, like you said. I think you're absolutely correct. He's only coming because he's got signed deals. He's not going to show up like Biden showed up in Saudi Arabia and they embarrassed the heck out of him.
Yeah, they did.
That is not going to happen with Trump.
So Trump's going to show up. He's going to sign Saudi Arabia right away. Then he's going to meet with the guy from Syria, and he's probably going to sign him up because that guy already said, "I'm ready to go. I want this."
I think he's got very little choice. Because if he doesn't, I don't think he has any allies, and he needs allies. He's the new guy on the block.
But he's got Turkey. I mean, he's tight with Erdogan.
Yeah. The big problem is actually that, and it's always been the Kurds, because for the Turks, the Turks look at the Kurds like we look at Hamas. It's a terrorist organization for them. So there was a problem. Turkey is a NATO ally. Turkey wants to wipe out the Kurds. Turkey has done genocide in the past, and not like
Armenia. You better believe it.
Yeah. So they want to genocide the Kurds, and so the Kurds are allies of America. Turkey's a NATO ally. It's really. It's yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But I mean, I think, like I said, Trump and his Gordian knots, I think he doesn't have to figure things out. He just looks at them and says, "This is what we need, do it."
Okay, so now this is Joelisms here, but I believe that Jordan's going to walk into this meeting with Trump and Saudi Arabia and say, "Hey, Saudi Arabia, you take over the Temple Mount." They're going to cede it over to them. I think they're afraid because Syria fell in 11 days. Jordan could fall even faster.
Well, there's a problem with that. The Temple Mount is not holy to Islam.
It's not in the Quran. It's not the furthest. I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Dr. Mordechai Kedar called it the first and greatest case of fake news.
Right.
According to the Sunni in Saudi Arabia, Al-Aqsa Mosque is in Al-Juhana in Saudi Arabia and not in Jerusalem. Okay, the Aqsa Mosque, it all goes back to the hadith about Muhammad's miraculous nighttime journey on Al-Buraq, the winged donkey. And then there was this period of time where there was the Umayyads could not make Hajj, so they made up stories that the miraculous journey was to Jerusalem, so that they could make Hajj to Jerusalem since they couldn't go to Mecca. And then when they could finally make Hajj again, they kind of forgot about Jerusalem after that.
Right.
But because there was this remainder of this urban myth, so the Palestinians jumped on it. But the problem would be for the Sunni in Saudi Arabia, if they take over Jerusalem as a Muslim holy site, then they're going to have to admit that it's okay to make Hajj to Jerusalem and not to Mecca. So they're they're
stuck.
They're stuck. So they probably, and the Hashemites in Jordan used to be in charge of Mecca. They got kicked out and they got a consolation prize, which was Jerusalem. But I mean, like, they never went to Jerusalem. No Jordanian leader ever went to. They made the Dome of the Rock gold, but they never really paid attention to it. So I don't know if Saudi Arabia really wants the Temple Mount. I don't know.
I think there's a deal. I think Trump is working on deals, and we'll see what happens. I think that Jordan will eventually just hand it back to somebody else, and the United States would love to be involved in it.
Well, maybe.
Make it an international city.
You mean a house of prayer for all nations?
Like a house of prayer for all nations. Sounds biblical, doesn't it, Adam?
Okay. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, I know.
Have you been to the Temple Mount?
No, I'm the only guy that's part Jewish that's never been there, Yeah.
Okay. If you go to the Temple Mount, there's what they call the Golden Gate, the Gate of Mercy, Sha'ar HaRachamim. And it's actually this like, you have to walk down steps, and there's a courtyard, not so large, and there's a door in the courtyard that goes underground. It's got this room, and it's on the outside is the Gate of Mercy that the Mashiach is supposed to come in through.
Sure. Yep.
Next to the door, that under like one floor, it's open to the sky, but it's down. Is a pile of timbers underneath a blue tarpaulin.
Oh my.
Okay.
Cedars from Hiram, from Lebanon.
So the deal was in the early 1900s, there was a huge earthquake, and the Aqsa Mosque, not the Dome of the Rock, the Aqsa Mosque collapsed.
Okay.
And it collapsed. And they had to rebuild the roof.
Okay.
And they took the old timbers and they put them off to the side. And there's some very sly Jews who managed to get their hands on a couple of those timbers and had them carbon dated. First temple. What people don't realize is when the Muslims went up to the Temple Mount and decided to build their buildings, why go buy building material?
It's right there.
It's right there. There's very few things on the Temple Mount that have been brought there. Most everything there is from the first and second temple.
Sure.
So the Dome of the Rock and the Aqsa Mosque are built out of temple materials with tiles.
I did not know that. That's new information for even me. Wow.
It's and that's why, and there's never been any archaeology done up there. We have no idea. Well, we kind of do have an idea of what we're going to find up there. We know where the Ark of the Covenant is. We just can't go there.
Okay,
it's directly.
You're going. Oh, you're saying it's on the Temple Mount, not Elephantine Island down in Ethiopia or anything.
Oh,
like
absolutely not. That no.
Okay,
even
okay.
It's no. That's no.
Okay, all right.
I mean, Solomon, when he built the temple, he made an alcove specifically directly underneath the Holy of Holies, specifically for the Ark of the Covenant, and it sat there. They put it there 200 years before the destruction of the temple. So,
didn't know that. Good information.
So we know where it is. And as an aside, referring back to my book,
yes. Show your book one more time.
There's
I bought your book. I won't receive it for another week, but yeah. Yeah, I bought it, of course. Yeah. You're my friend.
So write an Amazon review. Oh, I
will. Absolutely. I'll say one.
I don't think you'll regret buying it. To be honest, I think it's a little bit pricey because it's not a big
book. It was $25. It was $50 normally, but $25 plus shipping.
I think it's actually, yeah. And
Amazon's $29.
Yeah, it's not a large book, but there's a lot of information and a lot of research that went into it, and it was amazingly edited, and everything was accurate. So, yeah. So Harry Moskoff, who wrote the Ark Report, he has collected all the Jewish sources, and it seems very clear that that's precisely where the Ark of the Covenant is. And there are different traditions about what's inside the Ark of the Covenant. The 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets, are in the Ark of the Covenant.
The rod,
the broken tablets.
Sure.
A small jar of manna from the desert.
Sure. Yep.
And there's also a tradition that there was a bit of the ashes of the red heifer.
Oh my! Oh, that'd be amazing to mix together.
It would not to mix together.
Oh, you can't mix the old with the new. I thought that's what they always did with the other 9 red heifers.
That's exactly. They always did.
Yeah.
And they also used the old stuff to purify all the utensils and the Kohanim for the new ceremony.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we can go and get the Ark of the Covenant And if it has the ashes of the red heifer, then doing the next red heifer will be so much more simple. So much more simple. So
okay, it is now 1 o'clock your time. I've kept you up all night. You need to go to sleep. People, I'm sorry I didn't allow you to ask questions. The problem is I don't run the board that well by myself. So, you know, what I'll promise you is this, that I'll talk to Scott and Doug, that we were talking about maybe getting together at 7 o'clock tonight, our typical time here, Central Time, and maybe discussing it again and handling the questions. So, Adam, thank you. Would you ever come back again, Adam?
Oh, we get along on Facebook. We get along in person. Why not?
I love you. I love you. Baruch Hashem for Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz.
Thank God. Okay, brother. Be blessed.
We're done.
Yeah. Where's the off button?
I'm going to turn the off button right now. Whoops. I need to get my mouse working here. Let me just have a second here. I'm sorry. There we go. Ooh,
okay.
Right there.
Great.
God bless.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Shalom.
Bye.